In this lesson, we're going to go over statutory modification of common law criminal homicide under the Pennsylvania model. So at this point, we've broken down step by step how the common law criminal homicide analysis works. Remember, we said step one, we have to look at causation. Was the defendant the actual and proximate cause of the victim's death? If so, then we're able to say, okay, the defendant killed the victim. The next question is whether the defendant committed the killing with malice aforethought. If he did, if the defendant killed the victim with malice aforethought, and there are no mitigating facts that can reduce the killing to manslaughter, and there's no applicable defenses, then we said at common law, the defendant was liable for common law murder, right? That was kind of the flow of the analysis. Right? It's important to recognize as we talk about statutory modification of common law criminal homicide under the Pennsylvania model that that analysis does not change. Right? All that we're doing is adding one additional step, one additional layer on top of that analysis at the end. Right? And so what we're talking about here with the Pennsylvania model is pretty much any statutory law that we see in a criminal law fact pattern where we see that the state that we're in grades murder by degree. Right? So if you see a statute in your fact pattern, in your criminal law fact pattern that tells you, hey, state A or state B, whatever state you're in, grades murder by degree, right? They have first degree murder and second degree murder. That is a formulation of the Pennsylvania model, which of course we know the vast majority of jurisdictions today follow. The reason we call this the Pennsylvania model is because all of these first and second degree murder statutes are based on legislation that was enacted in Pennsylvania in 1794. So 200 years later, right, the majority of states are still following various formulations of what Pennsylvania originally enacted in 1794. This is why we call it the Pennsylvania model. But this is just another way of saying states or jurisdictions that grade murder by degree, right? First degree murder and second degree murder. And so the reason in 1794 that Pennsylvania enacted this legislation, right, modifying the criminal law or the common law criminal homicide analysis was because the Pennsylvania state legislature was recognizing that some types of murder are more serious than other types of murder. Based on various facts, in a case-by-case basis, some types of murder are more serious than other types of murder and therefore deserve more serious punishments, right? So to handle this, to address this, the Pennsylvania legislature enacted degrees of murder, right? Primarily first degree murder and second degree murder, where the Pennsylvania state legislature in 1794 is essentially saying, hey, look, more serious types of murder we're going to call first degree murder. Less serious types of murder we're going to call second degree murder. And those more serious types of murder, those more serious first degree murders are going to be subject to harsher punishments than second degree murder. And of course, today, this holds true, right? In states that have adopted formulations of this model, the Pennsylvania model, first degree murder is treated as a more serious offense than second degree murder, right? First degree murder is often subject to the death penalty or life in prison, right? It's one of the most serious offenses we have in the United States. First degree murder. Okay? So again, though, before we jump into it, the important thing to recognize is all of those common law principles that we talked about are still applicable in the analysis. We don't abandon our common law step-by-step analysis we laid out just because we see we're in a jurisdiction that has adopted the Pennsylvania model, right? First and second degree murder statutes. Now, if we see we're in a jurisdiction that has adopted the model penal code, right, that could be a little bit different. but we're not going to discuss that in this lesson. Most of the time, what we're seeing is the Pennsylvania model, because this is what the vast majority of jurisdictions have adopted, right? Where we're actually grading murder by degree. Okay, but how does this work? In most jurisdictions, murder is divided into degrees by statute. Generally, a murder is second-degree murder unless it falls under any of the following statutory aggravating circumstances, which makes it first-degree murder. So the idea here is, in states that have adopted the Pennsylvania model that grade murder by degree, the default type of murder, right? So if we have a killing of another human being with malice aforethought, right? And we remember malice aforethought, there's 4 ways to get there: intent to kill, intent to inflict grievous bodily injury, depraved heart murder, intent to commit a felony under the felony murder rule, right? Those 4 mental state requirements that get us to malice aforethought, right? That it's still murder, and the default is those types of killings are second-degree murder unless there are aggravating circumstances that raise it from second-degree to first-degree murder. Right, so the default is second-degree murder. However, if statutory aggravating circumstances are present, it becomes first-degree murder. Right? And the 3 categories that we consider to be statutory aggravating circumstances are the same 3 categories that were present in the 1794 version, the original 1794 legislation enacted in Pennsylvania 200 years later. We have essentially the same 3 types of categories. Right? We have felony murder, heinous murder, and premeditated murder. These are the types of murders, right, that can aggravate, that we consider to be statutory aggravating circumstances that can raise a crime from second-degree murder to first-degree murder, right? So we know what felony murder is. We talked about the felony murder rule. We have a whole lesson on the felony murder rule. I'm not going to re-break down felony murder. The idea here is, though, a homicide that occurs during the commission or attempted commission of a statutorily enumerated felony is first-degree murder. So the way this works is, under the felony murder rule, in states that have first and second-degree murder statutes under the Pennsylvania model, right, those jurisdictions are going to lay out in the statutory murder law that they have on the books what types of felony murder constitute first-degree murder, right? Their statutory language is going to say a homicide that occurs during the commission or attempted commission of these specific felonies, right? The most common are burglary, arson, rape, robbery, and kidnapping, right? We have an acronym, BARK, with 2 R's. Burglary, arson, rape, robbery, and kidnapping are the most common that you see, but there could be any number of specifically enumerated felonies that any jurisdiction has specifically listed that constitute first-degree murder. So any homicide that occurs during the commission or attempted commission of those statutorily listed felonies, right, which is often burglary, arson, rape, robbery, and kidnapping, is going to be first-degree murder. And if you remember back on our felony murder rule lesson, we said, remember, felony murder is basically crimes gone wrong. We talked a lot about the robbery gone wrong. The defendant attempts to rob someone, and during the process, the commission of that robbery, the victim has a heart attack and dies, right? Well, we said if that was in a jurisdiction that has adopted, right, a first-degree murder statute and under the Pennsylvania model that says, hey, look, a homicide that occurs during the commission or attempted commission of a robbery is first-degree murder, then that is first-degree murder. If you're attempting to rob somebody and a homicide occurs during that robbery, right, that's first-degree murder. Even if you didn't have the intention to kill that person, right, it could still be first-degree murder under these felony murder statutes. And remember, first-degree murder is our most serious type of murder, right? It's the most serious level. It's subject to the death penalty and life in prison in most jurisdictions, okay? And so you can get there without having an intent to kill under the felony murder rule. We talked about this in a ton of detail if you want to go back and watch that lesson on the felony murder rule. So the next category that can essentially aggravate a murder from second-degree murder to first-degree murder is heinous murders. These are going to be a homicide that is perpetrated in a statutorily specified manner that is deemed sufficiently morally reprehensible that it's first-degree murder. Right? So in the original 1794 enactment, under this original Pennsylvania first and second degree murder statutory law, right, the types of heinous murder that were listed were killing by poison and lying in wait. For whatever reason, right, the Pennsylvania legislator decided that these were more serious ways to commit murder that justified, stricter punishments. So if you killed somebody by poisoning them, or if you killed somebody by lying in wait, this would be like hiding in a person's house, waiting for them to get home and then killing them, ambushing them. The Pennsylvania state legislature viewed these as more heinous types of murder, right? More morally reprehensible types of murder, right? Today, other types of murder is going to be included in heinous murder categories that aggravate murder from second degree to first degree murder. Oftentimes, this involves situations where the defendant is inflicting more pain on the victim than might be necessary to accomplish the goal of killing them, right? Things like torture and mutilation, right? These would be considered especially heinous, especially morally reprehensible, that justifies aggravating it from second degree, which is the default, to first degree murder, right? And could subject the defendant to the death penalty or life in prison. Finally, we have premeditated murder. Probably most people are familiar with this. This is kind of our third category, our third statutorily aggravating circumstance that can aggravate a second degree murder to first degree murder. A homicide that is willful, deliberate, and premeditated is first degree murder. And the way we really define willful, deliberate, and premeditation is as follows. If the defendant made the decision to kill in a cool and dispassionate manner and actually reflected on the idea of killing, even if only for a very brief period of time, it is premeditated murder. Right, so we're probably all familiar somewhat with the concept of premeditated murder. Most of us probably envision, right, somebody plotting and planning to kill somebody, right? And that is definitely first degree premeditated murder, right? If a person sits there and, for weeks spends time, with a diagram, with diagrams in a journal, and they're like writing out step by step how they're going to kill somebody, right? This is what we would think of most as premeditated murder, right? Where the defendant is actually making the decision to kill in a very cool and dispassionate manner, reflecting on the idea of killing. Right? But it is important to recognize that this process of premeditation can happen in a matter of seconds, right? There is no actual time requirement. So long as the decision is made in a cool and dispassionate manner, right? You can't be in heat of passion. Any sudden heat of passion killing is not going to satisfy premeditated murder, right? And we do need to see that actual reflection on the idea of killing while a person is in a cool and dispassionate state, right? But this could happen in a matter of moments. Right? If a person is not in any sort of heat of passion and for a couple of seconds weighs the pros and cons of killing another person and then coolly, collectively, calmly, dispassionately decides to actually kill this person, even if that happened, that process was very brief, by the legal definition, that can be premeditated murder. Right? And premeditated murder is often considered an aggravating circumstance that will raise a second degree murder to first degree murder. Thank you so much for watching this video preview of our Legal Education Accelerator program, or LEAP for short. If you would like to see the conclusion of this video and gain full access to our entire 1L and 2L video library, integrated outlines, streamable audio versions, additional practice exams with explanations, and much more, we invite you to head over to our website and join the thousands of law students who have already enrolled. To get started with your no-risk free trial today, simply click the link in the description box below or visit www.studicata.com/leap.
Hi everyone, my name is Serena and I'm currently a law student at South Texas College of Law, Houston.
Hi everybody, my name is Shiva and I'm currently a law student at Southwestern.
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle and I am a first year student at South Texas College of Law, Houston. I used the Studicata study video series last semester to help me prepare mostly for contracts, and I actually made an A+ in contracts last semester, which I greatly dedicate to the Studicata videos.
By using Studicata to help me prepare for my final exam, I was able to score the highest grade out of my class on the final and even have my essay distributed as the model answer. Not to mention I had done quite poorly on the midterm and was struggling throughout the whole course of the semester, understanding the material and keeping up with lectures.
Because of the Studicata video lectures, I was able to go into my exams with a feeling of confidence. I didn't have to worry about what the rules of law were or how I was going to organize my answer to an essay question.
I would absolutely recommend the Studicata series and their online course materials to anyone. I think that they are not like professor lectures that you might find online or other outside study materials that you may encounter. I think that the Studicata videos really focus on not only ensuring that you understand the material that you're going to encounter on your final, but they also help you to understand kind of the best method for test taking, and they really break down how to approach each problem and the best ways to tackle certain methods on testing, and I think that's really important, and I think it's really special. I don't see that anywhere else in any of the other online resources that I've found. So I would certainly recommend Studicata to anyone who is studying in law school right now. Good luck on your studying and you're going to do great.
I would definitely recommend Studicata to anybody watching this video. Give it a chance. I'm positive that you will love it, that you will get a lot out of it, and that you will be happy that you gave it a chance. I definitely am. I know I will be using Studicata in the future.
And I cannot thank Studicata enough for getting me through my first semester of law school. I will definitely continue to watch the Studicata video lectures throughout my law school career, and I highly recommend that any future or current law student do the same.